Good morning, great to be here. So over the next 20 minutes, I don't know how I'm going to possibly do this, but over the next 20 minutes, I'm going to give you an overview of the market trends in the wearable computing space. Some interesting product releases. I think it's all well and good trying to raise money and trying to sell your company, but it all starts with fantastic design. So here's some of the designs that I think are very interesting. We'll also look at some of the apps and platform releases and software, and hopefully we'll have a bit of time to cover IoT, interesting component releases, acquisitions, funding. If not, this is going to be available to you through Glaze conference, and we might even do a webinar, who knows. Let's see how far we can get. So, what I've realized is there's a ton of great information out there for you. We're completely overloaded with information every day from in the news. So what I've done is summarized it for you. We've got a site called Wearable.ai, and every day we review the news, and we do about 3 hours of reading down to about 3 minutes. We're doing something a little bit different here because this is for you. This is meant for a business audience, and we're trying to pull in intel out of the news for you. Personally, I run Qatari, which is a startup consultancy doing strategy, biz dev, and PR for the wearable computing, AR, and IoT space. So I think generally we can split the industry up into 4 major spaces. There's the industrial and military applications, which have been around for a long while, of course. Infotainment applications. We've got the fitness and wellness, which is doing very well, of course, and healthcare and medical. It's a nice way to think about the 4 broad areas of the industry. We also have to consider that there's some hype. We're on a hype cycle here. And this is actually the Gartner hype cycle, which is updated every year. It's been going the longest. And we can see that wearable computing is up here, and Internet of Things is peaking right now in terms of the hype to reality, essentially. We're at the peak of inflated expectations right now, according to Gartner. And in comparison, AR is more mature. So AR's over here. And according to this, the peak, we've got a plateau will be reached in 5 to 10 years in terms of being down here. There's all sorts of numbers for predictions of the size of the industry. Here's one number. This is from Markets. They say that by 2020, it'll be a $12 billion a year industry. And they're saying that over the next 5 years, we're going to see 40 to 50% a year growth. Everyone's all over the map, though. I like the Business Insider numbers. What they tell us is that by 2018, we'll be about $12 billion a year. And at around about 300 million units. But I do think we're in kind of a stage where people are trying before they're really buying. Before they put down their big bucks, they want to try this out. This is more than a baby step for a lot of people. And so you see a lot of these kind of entry-level, plastic, low-budget devices that people are trying out. Like, even Jawbone. I mean, it's plastic. I don't think people want to wear plastic, ultimately. I think they will spring some big dollars once they warm up to the entire space, once they feel and see and understand the sheer utility of the enablement that we're bringing to them. We're really all about enabling human beings, besides connecting them. So this is some more numbers. Cisco is telling us that by 2018, we're about 177 million wearable devices, specifically wearable devices. So the 3 big players in wearables right now, Samsung, Fitbit, and Jawbone. And of course, Apple's going to be coming through for Q1 2015 to disrupt everything, possibly. Let's get into the numbers a bit more. What you're seeing here is in blue. In fact, first of all, this is basic wearable bands versus smart wearable bands. Let me define that first of all. A smart wearable band is not a clip. There's no third-party apps. So it's like Jawbone. And possibly it's paired with a smartwatch. So Fitbit and Jawbone are good examples. And this segment has grown 7x. From last year through this year. So it's a 7 times growth pattern. Huge amount of growth. Meanwhile, the smart wearable bands have grown 9x. So we're seeing a far faster growth path here. Let's dive in a bit deeper. In 2014 through 2015, so blue is 2014, green is 2015. Here we have basic wearable bands. We're seeing moderate growth, but nowhere near as much as the growth that we're going to see with the smart wearable bands. And this is from Canalys. So in short, the growth is in the smart wearable bands. But the problem that we're seeing is that cost is the greatest concern for consumers. And as I said, we're in this kind of stage, I think, called try before you really buy. $75 to $125 is the sweet spot for a wearable device at this stage. And there seems to be a lot of resistance at the $200 price point. Interestingly, women will pay more. Women are more willing to pay more for wearable devices. So why would people not buy a wearable device at this stage? Well, there's a survey that was done by Business BI Intelligence. 10% of people say they're worried about health risks. Like rashes, for example. Fitbit had a device called the Force, the Fitbit Force. And there was a huge recall because it gave people a rash, of all things. They're worried about comfort, they're worried about look, they're very worried about privacy, but mostly they're concerned about expense. They're less interested in buying because of the expense of the devices. I don't know about this. Let's look back in time. I wonder if they would have predicted 5 years ago that people would not be willing to buy a laptop over $1,000. And here we are with these, the Apple, people are very willing to spend over $1,000 when we deliver beautiful design and sheer utility, and it just works. So here's some interesting product releases. For a dry app. So this is the Run Scribe. Now what's interesting about the Run Scribe is it's a 9-axis sensor. It goes in the shoe. Now Nike had this years ago, and here we are back to the shoe insert. But it's a lot more information. They're giving the real enthusiast runner a lot more information to work with. It's $100. The Asus Zen watch is quite interesting. It's beautiful. I think it's one of the most beautiful watches on the horizon yet. It should be out by Christmas, and it'll be under $200. In comparison, I mean, this has been specially designed, but I think this is a bit clunky. It's a bit geekoid. I think we're going to move away from this kind of design. This is a personal preference, but I don't think you'll want to wear something that looks like a PC or a Zoom. This is going to be about $250. Meanwhile, the Sony Smartwatch 3 is quite zen in design. This is going to be at £190, and it's going to pair with the Xperia tablets. And Xperia is doing some really nice work. They're really giving iPad a run for their money because they're waterproof, light, great batteries. I think Sony's one to watch for sure. Their tablets are very impressive. This is out in November. Complete step to the left. We're getting into medical now. You know, my mother takes so many tablets. Every day she's got a raft of tablets she's got to take. I do not know how she keeps track of it. It's no small problem. And wouldn't it be great if there was a pill that she could take that would ensure, the doctor and family would know that she's taken her pills on time. So that's exactly what this is. This company has received $266 million in funding to date. And the way it works is you swallow the pill, and it basically tells you that the rest of the pills have been taken. So it's like it's a monitor, essentially. This is the Razer Nabu, and what's special about this is it pairs with WeChat. So it's specifically a band for WeChat. Of course, WeChat has 400 million users in China. And also, when you shake someone's hand, it will automatically pair. And this launches later this year. Meanwhile, Toshiba's getting into the fray as well. They've got a great battery on this device. It's 2-week-long battery, double the battery of a Fitbit Flex. Terrible name. I don't like. Why are we calling things Wearable 1100? I think, given the intimacy of this business, we need to be more creative than that. Please don't follow suit. I mean, Wearable 1100. Sorry. All right. So then we have the Movo Wave, which is priced at $29. They're really undercutting everybody by 3-4x. One to watch. We talked about, wouldn't it be great if you could wave your hand around and have a device that would track your hand. This is actually what the Fit Smart Ring does. It tracks swipes and taps. The Scully helmet, we've got Mitch up later, who's going to be talking to us about Scully, but they raised $2.4 million, and they have a heads-up display inside a helmet. You should be aware of this. That's $2,000 or so. There's some great specs on this particular device, the Optim Vent Aura 1, but resistance is futile. I just don't think we're going to move in this direction. I think ultimately people want to they're not willing to trade off a clunky-looking device. But that's not fair, really, because this device does something very special. It has a far larger window than a Google Glass, and it's an overlay. So it's actually an AR device, which is actually very exciting. It is a company to watch. It should be on your radar. The Recon Jet is perfect if you're a cyclist, perfect if you're into skiing, because you can see what's going on around you and have the GPS built in. Meanwhile, Samsung is doing great work. But again, doesn't this look a little like a drunk iPhone? I mean, the design is, I'm not sure people really want to wear that. We have to build devices that people love, which is why Apple has waited. I think they've taken a little time to really consider what people want and love. This is a rather expensive, when a watch company is going to get into the fray, Timex is getting into the fray with this $440 runner's watch. Meanwhile, the roofer's cuff is incredible. I mean, this is a $350 device. It needs to pair with a smartphone, but you can do video calls on it. I'm intrigued with this device, the Clax. It's actually a bracelet, so when someone calls you, you unhook it, put it to your head, and you've got a phone. But the big announcement, of course, this year is the Apple iWatch is coming. And really what they have working for them is an incredible ecosystem, an army of developers. The device has a single sapphire screen. It really looks well engineered. And I think as you consider your startups, Peter Thiel just wrote a book, 1 to 0, and I think a good way of thinking about, is my company viable? Can it raise money? Can it be acquired? You have to consider his 4 success factors, and that is, firstly, is it 10 times better than the competitors? Can you get network effects? Meaning, are there users that are using the same device that it can become a real communication tool? Can you get economies of scale? Being Apple, I'd say yes. And do you have the power of a brand? So I want to also give you an overview of what my perfect device would be. So I would like to walk in here in a few years' time and wear a pair of these, the Zaxxys. Now the way the Zaxxy works is there's an AR display that's actually built in. So there's no need for a little glass. The AR display will be within the lens. The color of the lenses change according to the environment. So when there's bright light, perhaps it will turn yellow. When it's sunny, it'll turn brown. It's powered from movement and the sun. It has true speech recognition, and there's a sensor pack built in, which also senses sweat on the brow, for example. And it's AI enabled, so it predicts your needs ahead of time. It tells you, it coaches you essentially. There's a coaching element to wearables, I think, that is very important. People in the future will want to hit their goals, whether it be health-wise or career-wise, and having that coach in your head, having that mentor essentially give you advice throughout the day is going to be an important part of what we do. All right. So, app software. How am I doing? 1 minute. All right, so I'll go through this real quick. you all know about Android Wear. Really, this is tuned to give you information at a glance. I think you should be, I like Wikipedia. This is a Wikipedia on Android Wear, essentially. There's a company called Vandrico, which you should be aware of. They've got a great list of all the wearable devices that are available. So if you want to really get the skinny on all the various devices, go to vandrico.com. But they also have an operating system called Canary, and this is meant for enterprise. Essentially, it's for operational alerts. So warning messages within companies. Now, Kronos is hugely controversial. The Chicago Tribune are using it for their personnel. The way this works is your time is tracked at a company. So instead of putting a timesheet, using a timesheet, this system allows them to track all of their employees' location and if they're at work or not. So what they're doing. So it replaces timesheets and tracking. I'm very excited about Remedy Beam. Remedy Beam allows a doctor to engage with a specialist. So if you're a doctor and you need to talk to a lung specialist or some other kind of specialist, then the doctor can dial in the specialist. He can see you or she can see you and give you some prognosis. This is really spooky stuff. This is Shaw, and this is by the Fraunhofer Institute for Integrated Circuits. What they've done is created a mood detector for Google Glass. This is the shape of the future. So it's actually measuring people's sentiment in real time. Not available yet. Keep your eye on it. Unwired is enterprise mobility company. They essentially hook into SAP. So what they're doing is allowing you to do hands-free stock taking. But the real problem that we have, I think, ultimately at this stage is that 1/3 of our users are quitting after 6 months. We've got a huge drop-off rate. 2/3 are staying, which is actually quite good, but we need to retain more of our users. We need to improve our use cases. We need to improve user engagement. And we really need to consider the data context, the timing, and the actionability of what we're pulling from people, how we're using it, and what the payoff is for them. A book you should read is Hooked. It's all about creating habit-forming by Nir Ayal. If you want to learn how to create habits, this is a great book. So there's my contacts. Do sign up for Wearable.ai, and I run Qatari.com. Thank you very much.